Oliver spent a whole year saving for the one Christmas gift Claire always dreamed of, an emerald necklace made just for her. He came home early to surprise her, flowers in hand, heart full, but there was another car in the driveway. And upstairs, behind a half-closed door, he heard her whisper, "He won't be home for hours." Then he saw who was in their bed. And the gift in his pocket suddenly felt like a joke. Before we start, subscribe to the channel and tell us in the comments where you're watching this story from. Oliver Grant was 36 years old, and this December he was about to make a choice that he believed would bring his wife untold joy instead. It would lead him to the most devastating discovery of his life. It was a choice that would shatter the beautiful illusion of his perfect marriage, leaving him sobbing like a child on Christmas Eve. Oliver had always prided himself on being a loving husband. He and his wife, Claire, had been together for 7 years, married for 5. In all that time, he never doubted her love or their trust in each other. They were the couple that others admired, the kind who still held hands while walking in the park, left sticky notes with cute messages on the fridge, and cuddled on the couch to binge their favorite shows every Friday night, or so Oliver thought. This Christmas, Oliver wanted to do something extraordinary for Claire. She'd often talked about her dreams and little wishes over the years, and one in particular always stuck with him. Claire had grown up modestly, and she used to tell Oliver about a day when she was 14 and passed by a jewelry shop decked out for the holidays. In the window, sparkling under twinkling Christmas lights, was the most beautiful emerald necklace she'd ever seen. "Someday I'll have something like that," she had said wistfully, not in a greedy way, but with the innocent longing of someone who rarely got to indulge in luxury. That story stayed with Oliver. Claire rarely splurged on herself. She was practical and frugal, always saying that experiences mattered more than things. But Oliver knew that deep down, she still held onto that teenage dream of owning a truly exquisite piece of jewelry, something that made her feel special and treasured. So, back in January of this year, Oliver quietly opened a separate savings account. He began setting aside a little from each paycheck at his job as a software project manager. He picked up some freelance coding work on weekends without telling Claire, wanting to keep the entire plan secret. Bit by bit, month by month, he saved. By November, he had enough to commission a custom emerald necklace for Claire, one even more elegant than the one she'd admired as a girl. It had a pear-shaped emerald pendant encircled by tiny diamonds, set on a delicate white gold chain. When Oliver picked up the finished piece from the jeweler a week before Christmas, his hands trembled with excitement. It was perfect. He could already picture the look on Claire's face when she opened the velvet box on Christmas morning, that mix of surprise, joy, and love that he lived to see. He imagined her throwing her arms around him, maybe even tearing up with happiness. In fact, Oliver was so eager that he decided he couldn't wait until Christmas Day. He planned an elaborate surprise for Christmas Eve. The idea was to catch her completely off guard. He'd pretend to have to stay late at work on December 24th, giving her the impression that he might even miss Christmas Eve dinner at home. In reality, he arranged to get off work early. He would pick up a bouquet of her favorite winter flowers, white roses, and holly and sneak home, while she thought he was still at the office. He even strung colorful Christmas lights inside their living room the night before, after Claire fell asleep, so that when she walked in, the whole place would glow. Under the lights, he'd be waiting with the flowers and that little blue velvet box with the dream necklace inside. It was going to be the biggest surprise of her life. For weeks, Oliver could barely contain his excitement. It was hard to act casual when he felt like a kid plotting a grand adventure. Every time Claire mentioned Christmas, or when they'd exchange gifts, he had to fight a smile. He'd just shrug and say, "We'll see, I might just get you socks," and she would laugh and swat his arm. In his mind, he replayed the scene of the surprise over and over. It gave him warmth even on stressful days at work or cold evenings when he was tired. Their relationship felt strong as ever. They decorated the Christmas tree together at the start of December, singing along to holiday music and sneaking kisses under the mistletoe Claire hung in the kitchen doorway. A week ago they'd slow danced in the living room to have yourself a merry little Christmas, just enjoying the quiet moment together. Looking at her that night, with the Christmas tree lights reflecting in her hazel eyes as she smiled up at him, Oliver thought, I'm the luckiest man alive. There were only a few small moments, barely even red flags, that gave Oliver pause in the last month. Once or twice he'd come up behind Claire while she was on her phone, and she quickly tilted the screen away or ended a text conversation abruptly. When he gently asked, "Who are you texting, hon?" she had blushed and said, "Oh, nobody, just a coworker asking about the holiday schedule." He'd found it a bit odd. Claire wasn't the secretive type usually, but he figured it might have had to do with a surprise of her own. Perhaps, he thought with a grin, she was planning a special Christmas gift for him too and didn't want him to find out. On another evening, about 2 weeks before Christmas, Claire had come home later than usual from her yoga class, looking a little flustered. She had apologized for being late, claiming class ran over time because people stayed to chat. Oliver hadn't thought much of it. After all, everything else seemed normal. They still had lazy Sunday mornings in bed, still shared jokes over cooking dinner, still kissed each other good night each evening. The love was there. Oliver could feel it. He never imagined those small oddities were warning signs of something deeply wrong. December 24th arrived crisp and bright. Oliver felt a nervous thrill as he left for work that morning, kissing Claire and saying, "I'll try not to be too late tonight. Save me some eggnog." She smiled and pecked his lips. "I will. Be safe. Love you. Love you more," he'd replied with a wink, pulling on his coat. His heart was practically singing. He had the plan timed to the minute. He had stashed the velvet jewelry box in the glove compartment of his car, along with a handwritten love letter he'd composed to give her alongside the necklace. In the letter, he'd poured out his heart, how she was the best gift he'd ever received in life, how he wanted to make her as happy as she made him, how he remembered her teenage wish and couldn't wait to see her wear the emerald pendant for the first time. Just thinking about those words made him emotional. He actually misted up in the office that morning, imagining their future. Someday maybe they'd have a child or two, and he could pass that necklace down to their daughter as an heirloom, a symbol of the love that saved their family by 1 p.m. That day, Oliver could hardly sit still. He had arranged with his boss to take a half day, citing family reasons. As he drove to the florist to pick up the flowers, he hummed along to Christmas carols on the radio. The back seat of his car was already hiding a big Christmas stocking stuffed with smaller gifts for Claire, some books by her favorite author, a new scarf, gourmet chocolates, little things he knew she'd love, but the piece de resistance was the necklace. That and the element of surprise. Oliver even imagined maybe he'd get down on one knee again when he presented it, just to be playful, asking her to marry him all over. He chuckled at the thought. With the bouquet of white roses and sprigs of holly berries in hand, Oliver finally pulled onto his street around 2 p.m. It was earlier than he'd ever come home on a normal workday. He felt almost giddy thinking of how Claire would react. She likely wasn't expecting him until at least 6. Perhaps she'd be curled up on the couch with a book, or prepping something for dinner. Maybe she'd even be taking one of her power naps. She loved a quick nap on days off. Surprising her in the middle of her ordinary afternoon would make it even more special. He turned into the short driveway of their cozy suburban home and frowned in mild confusion. Claire's car was there, as expected since she had the day off, but parked right behind it was another vehicle, a dark blue sedan. It looked familiar. Oliver's brow knit as he realized why it was his best friend Adam's car. Adam Wilson and Oliver had been friends since college. Adam was practically family. He hung out at their house regularly for game nights and weekend barbecues. In fact, Adam was supposed to be out of town visiting his parents for Christmas, or so he'd told Oliver last week. Oliver's first thought was pure, innocent surprise. Adam's here. Maybe something happened with his travel plans. It crossed Oliver's mind that perhaps Adam and Claire were planning a surprise of their own for him. After all, around his birthday last year, Claire and Adam had teamed up to throw Oliver a secret party. The three of them were close. Claire and Adam sometimes teased Oliver that they got along so well it was scary. He trusted them both with all his heart, so at that moment, although something in his gut tightened, Oliver pushed aside any uneasy feelings. He reasoned Adam might have stopped by to drop off a present or needed a place to crash if a flight got canceled. "I'll play it cool," Oliver thought. "I won't rue in any surprise they might be planning." Quietly, Oliver parked on the street just a few houses down, rather than pulling into the driveway and announcing his arrival with the crunch of gravel and engine noise. He wanted the element of surprise on his side. If Adam and Claire were setting something up inside for him, he'd love to catch them in the act and join in with a laugh. And if not, well, he still wanted to surprise Claire with the flowers and gift without her hearing his car. Oliver tucked the small jewelry box into his jacket pocket, grabbed the bouquet, and stepped out into the chilly afternoon air. Snow from last week's flurries crunched under his shoes as he made his way up the sidewalk. Approaching the house, Oliver noticed through the front bay window that the Christmas tree lights were off. Strange, he thought Claire usually turned them on by dusk, and it was cloudy enough that the living room was dim. The curtains were partly open. As he carefully crept up the steps to the front door, heart pounding with anticipation, he also saw that the living room was empty. No sign of Claire or Adam. Maybe they were in the kitchen or upstairs. He carefully fit his key into the lock and turned it as silently as possible. Easing the front door open, Oliver slipped inside. The house was quiet, but not entirely silent. He shut the door behind him and stood for a moment in the foyer, holding his breath. Faint muffled sounds floated down from above it, sounded like voices, and the rhythm of it suggested conversation, though he couldn't make out words through the ceiling. Claire and Adam were upstairs. Oliver's mind raced. Perhaps Adam was helping her move some furniture or something. But why would they be upstairs, and in which room? Their bedroom and the small home office were the only rooms up there besides the bathroom. The bouquet trembled in Oliver's hand. A sudden, inexplicable dread washed over him. "Stop it. Don't jump to conclusions," he scolded himself internally. "There's nothing wrong. This is Adam, your best friend, and your wife." He couldn't actually think of a good reason they'd be upstairs together with the door closed. He realized the voices were muffled enough that a door must be shut. A tiny bead of sweat formed on his temple despite the cool indoor temperature. The instinct to find out what was happening kicked in, even as he fought to stay calm. He set the flowers down gingerly on the hall table by the front door, right next to the framed photo of his and Claire's wedding day. In the photo, Claire and Oliver were grinning widely, holding hands, sun shining behind them like a blessing. Oliver's throat tightened looking at it now. Don't panic, he told himself. At least see what's going on. He took a few quiet steps toward the staircase. The voices became clearer, though still too low to understand. One of them, definitely Claire's, was talking quickly. Oliver could catch the tone of her voice. It sounded urgent, almost hushed but intense. Adam's deeper voice occasionally interjected, but he couldn't make out the words. Halfway up the stairs, Oliver's heart was thudding so loudly in his ears he feared they might hear him. The bedroom door at the end of the hall was indeed closed. He could see that the door was not fully latched. It was open just a crack, and faint light spilled through the gap onto the hallway wall. Oliver moved on instinct, each step as light as possible. As he approached, holding his breath, a few distinct words finally filtered through that narrow opening. Claire's voice in a hushed, anxious whisper, "He usually never leaves work before 6. We have plenty of time." Oliver froze, a foot away from the door, every nerve on fire. "We have plenty of time. Time for what?" He shifted ever so slightly to peek through the crack in the door. At first his brain struggled to process what he was seeing. Inside the bedroom, lit by the soft afternoon light through the curtains, he saw movement. Claire's back was partly turned to him. She was near the foot of the bed, wrapped in the ivory-colored silk robe that Oliver had bought her last month. That robe was loosely cinched, hanging off one shoulder, and seated on the edge of the bed, shirtless, was Adam. He had one hand on Claire's waist. They were kissing, intimately. Claire's fingers were running through Adam's hair in a way Oliver recognized she often did that to Oliver when they were being affectionate. It was a sight so wrong, so impossible, that Oliver's mind rejected it at first. He felt detached from his own body, as though he were watching a scene in a movie, one that was about to turn into a nightmare. Claire giggled softly and pulled back from the kiss for a moment. "We should be careful," she murmured. Oliver could see her face now in profile. Her cheeks were flushed. Her lips curved in a coy smile he had never seen her use except with him. Adam chuckled and tried to draw her back toward him. "Relax," Adam said in a low voice. "Like you said, he won't be home for hours. I've missed you. Come here." He leaned forward and whispered something in her ear that made Claire squeal quietly and swat at him playfully. Oliver felt like he might vomit. His stomach lurched, a mix of nausea and deep, soul-crushing hurt rising from his gut up into his chest. His hands began to tremble uncontrollably. This cannot be real, he thought. No, there's some explanation, but what explanation could possibly make sense of this? His wife, his beloved Claire, was in their marital bedroom with his best friend in that way. Oliver realized he had stopped breathing. He let out a shaky breath, and it made the slightest sound. Inside the room, Adam's head suddenly turned toward the door, alerted by something. Oliver didn't care if he was discovered or not in that moment. His shock was rapidly transforming into white, hot anger and despair. With a trembling hand, Oliver pushed the door open wide. It struck the doorstop with a thud. Claire gasped, and Adam jumped to his feet. For a heart-stopping second, none of them moved or spoke. Claire's eyes were wide with utter disbelief and panic, fixed on Oliver's face. Adam's complexion went ashen as he fumbled to grab his discarded shirt from the bed. Oliver just stood there, blocking the doorway, chest heaving as if he'd run a marathon. Oliver's voice came out soft, broken, barely above a whisper. What is this?" It was all he could manage to say, though 1,000 other words fought to erupt. Claire clutched her robe tightly around her body, as if suddenly feeling exposed. "Oliver," she stammered, her voice high, pitched and shaky. "It's not, I can explain." "Explain," Oliver echoed, a sudden, wild laugh escaping his lips. He felt something in his heart crack, splintering into pieces. Hot tears pricked at the corners of his eyes. "Explain what exactly? That my wife and my best friend—" He couldn't even finish the sentence. The reality was too painful to speak. Adam stepped forward, hands up as if calming a dangerous animal. "Oliver, man, listen, I'm so sorry." Adam blurted out, his voice trembling. He had pulled on his shirt, but hadn't managed to button it yet. This just happened. We never meant—" "Shut up." Oliver's voice suddenly found strength, fueled by heartbreak and rage. He glared at Adam with an intensity that made his friend fall silent. "Don't you dare talk to me." Adam's mouth opened and closed, but no sound came. The coward had the decency to look ashamed, at least. Oliver shifted his burning gaze to Claire. Seeing her now, hair tousled, robe clutched around her, lips swollen from another man's kisses, it hit him like a physical blow. This woman he loved so deeply had done this. She had betrayed him in the one place that was supposed to be sacred for them. And she hadn't just betrayed him with some stranger in a moment of weakness, no. It was with Adam, the person Oliver considered a brother. The double betrayal made Oliver's head spin. Claire took a hesitant step towards her husband, tears welling in her eyes. "Oliver, please, I'm sorry," she choked out. Her voice broke into a sob. "We didn't want you to find out like this." As if that made it better. Oliver felt a tear spill down his cheek, hot and unbidden. His hands were clenched into fists at his sides. He noticed vaguely that he was still wearing his winter coat. In some distant part of his mind, a memory floated up. him standing in the jewelry store, grinning as he imagined how happy Claire would be to get her dream necklace. That memory now felt like a cruel joke. "Were you ever going to tell me?" Oliver asked, his tone eerily calm, though tears were now rolling freely down his face. "Or were you just going to keep doing this behind my back?" Each word trembled with hurt. Claire was openly crying now. "I wanted to tell you I was just scared," she moaned, covering her face with her hands. "It was a mistake. I never meant to hurt you." Oliver felt something snap inside him. "A mistake?" he echoed, voice rising. "A mistake is forgetting to turn off the oven. This," he gestured at the bed, at Adam, at her. "This is not a mistake, Claire. This is a choice you made again and again." He realized with jarring clarity that this wasn't some one-time lapse. It couldn't be. The way they were so comfortable when he walked in, the fact that it was in their own home, in their bed, and Claire's words about him not being home for hours, this affair had been going on for a while. Oliver's knees felt weak at that realization. How long had he been living as a fool in blissful ignorance? Weeks, months. Adam tried again, voice cracking. "Oliver, I'm sorry, man. If I could take it back, you..." Oliver's eyes snapped to Adam with pure hatred. "Get out of my house." Adam stiffened. "Oli, maybe we should all get out." Oliver roared so loudly it made Claire flinch. His voice echoed down the hallway. Oliver had never yelled like that in his life. He felt almost dizzy from it, but it had the intended effect. Adam jolted into action, grabbing his shoes from the floor. He looked at Claire, uncertain, and she nodded frantically, as if telling him it was the only option. Adam shuffled past Oliver, not meeting his eyes. For a moment, Oliver thought of all the years of friendship, all the memories late. Night study sessions, bachelor party shenanigans, the time Adam had given a goofy toast at their wedding reception. It all felt tainted and distant, like it belonged to someone else's life. As Adam passed, Oliver hissed through gritted teeth, "If you ever come near me or my wife again, so help me, you'll regret it." Adam opened his mouth as if to speak, thought better of it, and lowered his gaze. Without another word, he bolted down the stairs. A second later, the front door opened and slammed shut as Adam fled the scene of his betrayal. And just like that, Oliver and Claire were left alone in suffocating silence. Claire stood there trembling, tears streaming down her cheeks. Oliver remained by the door, feeling rooted to the spot. His whole body was shaking now, adrenaline and devastation coursing through him. He realized he was still crying. He roughly wiped his wet cheeks with the back of his hand, but more tears kept coming. Claire took a tentative step closer. "Oliver," she whispered, "I'm so sorry." She tried to reach out as if to touch his arm. Oliver recoiled as though her hand were a hot iron. "Don't." His voice cracked. "Don't touch me." She withdrew, sobbing harder. "Please, just let me explain. We never wanted to hurt you. It just..." Oliver let out a strangled sound, half sob, half laugh. "You never wanted to hurt me, Claire. You were hurting me every moment this, whatever this is, continued. God, I can't even look at you right now." He turned away, pressing the heels of his palms into his eyes, as if he could block out reality and rewind time by sheer force of will. But the image was burned into his mind, Claire and Adam in each other's arms, her face alight with the kind of passion and happiness that Oliver thought was reserved for him. If you enjoy stories of love, betrayal, and shocking discoveries, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more. And tell me, where are you watching from? We post new stories every day, each one more intense than the last. Oliver staggered back a step, dropping his hands from his face. They were standing in the doorway of the bedroom that he and Claire had shared for years, the room where they whispered dreams to each other at night, and woke up entwined each morning. Now it felt like a stranger's room. He caught a glimpse inside. The sheets were disheveled, pillows askew, evidence of what had happened there. That sight twisted the knife in his heart even deeper. On the floor near the bed, he noticed something small and out of place, his vision blurred with tears. But after a second, he recognized it. It was the corner of a condom wrapper peeking out from under a pillow that had fallen. A guttural sound of pain tore from Oliver's throat. The betrayal was so blatant, so physical and real, that he thought he might faint from the pain and anger flooding him. Claire followed his gaze and saw it too. Fresh shame washed over her face. "Oliver, she began, but Oliver held up a hand sharply. Just don't say anything. He had heard enough. There was nothing she could say that would justify this or make it better. If anything, hearing more might just break him completely. Claire stood there, a broken shell of the confident, loving woman he thought he knew. But Oliver couldn't afford to pity her now. He was barely keeping himself from collapsing. "I was going to surprise you," he said softly, almost to himself, staring at a random spot on the hallway wall. His voice was distant and hollow. "I was going to surprise you with something special today." He reached into his jacket with trembling fingers and pulled out the small velvet box. He hadn't even realized until that moment that it was still tucked safely in his inner pocket throughout this nightmare. He held it up between them. Claire's red, tear-filled eyes widened slightly in recognition. She knew that box was from a jeweler, and she looked utterly confused. Oliver continued in that eerily calm tone, though his tears kept falling freely down his face. "I thought we were happy, Claire. I thought you loved me as much as I love you. This necklace." He gave a sad, shaky laugh. "This was supposed to be your Christmas present, the one you always wanted. An emerald necklace, just like the one you dreamed about as a kid. I remembered that story you told me." His voice broke on the last sentence. Claire's hands were clamped over her mouth, sobbing into them as she listened. Oliver's fingers flipped open the velvet box to reveal the gorgeous green gemstone nestled inside. It glimmered softly even in the low light of the hallway. Claire gasped, a sound full of sorrow and disbelief. For a split second, an expression of pure astonishment and heartbreak flashed across her face, as if the reality of what she had done only truly hit her when she saw that beautiful gift meant for her, a symbol of Oliver's unwavering love. "Oh my God, Oliver," she cried, reaching out as if to touch the necklace. Oliver snapped the box shut abruptly, pulling it away. He couldn't bear her looking at it. A sob tore through him as he choked out, "All I ever wanted was to make you happy, Claire, to be a good husband, and this is what I get in return." His voice rose in anguish on the last words. Claire shook her head frantically, tears splashing down her cheeks. I'm so sorry, I never wanted," she wept, but Oliver couldn't listen any more. Each apology felt like a dagger of false hope twisting in him. He realized he needed to get out of there, or he really might collapse. Without another word, Oliver turned on his heel and rushed down the hallway. Claire followed a step or two. "Oliver, wait, please," she cried out, but he didn't stop. He thundered down the stairs 2 at a time, almost tripping on the last step as his vision blurred with tears. The bouquet of roses and holly on the entry table caught his eye as he reached the foyer, the flowers he'd been so excited to give her. In a surge of agony-fueled anger, Oliver swiped the bouquet off the table. It hit the wall and fell to the floor, the delicate white petals scattering over the hardwood. Claire had stopped at the top of the stairs, hugging herself and sobbing as she watched him. He grabbed his car keys with one hand and yanked open the front door with the other. Cold winter air rushed in. Claire's voice, small and broken, came from behind him. "I love you, Oliver, I'm sorry." It was barely more than a whisper through her tears. Oliver paused, 1 foot over the threshold. Her words hung in the air. He squeezed his eyes shut. How can she say she loves me? How can she even dare, he thought bitterly. He didn't trust himself to answer her without completely losing it. So he stepped out and slammed the door behind him, leaving her words and her cries inside that house that had once been a home full of love, now turned into a place of betrayal. Oliver made it to his car before the sobs overtook him. As he fumbled with the door handle, a wail of despair ripped from his chest, a sound so raw and profound that, had anyone heard it, it would have brought tears to their eyes too. He practically fell into the driver's seat, his body shaking. The velvet jewelry box was still clutched in his left hand. He hurled it onto the passenger seat as though it were poison. Then he simply broke down, Tears streamed down his face in an unrelenting flood. Oliver Grant, who prided himself on always being the composed, reliable man, cried with the abandon of a heartbroken child. Gut-wrenching sobs racked his body as he gripped the steering wheel with one hand and covered his face with the other. In all his life, he had never felt pain like this. It was as if someone had reached into his chest and ripped his heart out, leaving a hollow ache that throbbed with every beat. He wasn't sure how long he sat there in the car, wailing in anguish, parked on the street just a few houses down from his own. It could have been minutes or hours. Time seemed to stop. Eventually, the worst of the sobbing subsided into quiet, hiccuping cries. Oliver's face was soaked, and the collar of his coat was damp from tears. His head pounded, and his throat felt raw. He knew he couldn't stay here forever. He needed to go somewhere, anywhere but back inside that house. He didn't have it in him to face Claire again right now, not her apologies, not her excuses, not even her existence. Oliver wiped his nose on his sleeve, hands still trembling. He realized his phone was buzzing in his pocket. With a shaky breath, he pulled it out. There were multiple missed calls and texts from Claire. He didn't read them, only catching snippets on the notification previews. Please come back, we need to talk. Oliver, I am so sorry, please answer. I'm scared, please just tell me where you are. He couldn't deal with that now. He swiped to block notifications from her number, at least for the night. The last thing he needed was more of her messages ripping open the wound again and again. Instead, he tapped a different contact, his older brother, James. When James picked up a moment later, Oliver's voice shook as he tried to sound normal, but failed miserably. James, I need a place to stay tonight. He managed to stammer. Immediately, his brother's concerned voice asked what was wrong. Oliver couldn't bring himself to explain everything right then. His throat was too choked with emotion. He just muttered, "It's Claire, I caught her cheating with Adam." The silence on the other end told him James was stunned. James cursed under his breath, then quickly said, "Come over, right now, I'll be here, you shouldn't be alone." Oliver felt a swell of gratitude and another wave of sorrow that his Christmas Eve had come to this. "Thank you," he whispered, voice cracking again. He started the car and drove off, leaving his house their house and the shattered remnants of his life behind in the cold December dusk. As he drove, numbness began to creep in after the storm of emotions. His mind replayed the scene over and over, Claire's face full of panic, Adam scrambling to get away, the necklace in his hand, the scattered roses on the floor. He couldn't escape it. It was like a nightmare reel stuck on loop. Each time it hit him anew that yes, this really happened, he felt another stab in his chest. He reached his brother James's apartment across town within half an hour. James was waiting at the door and pulled Oliver into a tight hug the moment he saw him. That did it. Oliver broke down in sobs once more, clutching his brother like a lifeline. James just held him, letting him cry, assuring him, "I've got you, Ollie, I'm here." Inside, James's wife Maria quickly gathered blankets and set the couch for Oliver, bringing him a hot cup of tea. They gently coaxed the story out of him once he'd calmed enough to speak. Oliver recounted the events in a hollow, monotone voice. He felt emotionally drained, almost in shock. James looked ready to punch a hole in the wall when he heard about Adam's involvement. Maria was in tears herself and kept shaking her head, repeating, "I'm so sorry, Oliver. I can't believe she did that to you." That night was the longest of Oliver's life. He lay on his brother's couch, staring at the ceiling. His eyes burned and felt like sandpaper from all the crying, but still sleep wouldn't come. Thoughts swirled in his mind relentlessly. How had he missed the signs? How long had Claire and Adam? Why did this happen? Was it my fault? He wondered in the darkness. Had he done something wrong, failed to fulfill her needs somehow? He remembered the few odd behaviors she'd shown, the secretive texting, the late yoga class, and mentally kicked himself. He had been so blind, so trusting, but then another part of him rebelled. No, this wasn't his fault. He had been nothing but loving and supportive. He trusted her because that's what you do when you love someone. She was the one who betrayed that trust. Still, the questions tortured him. Was she bored with him? Did he not show her enough attention? She used to complain lightly that his hours were long. Had he been working too much? But I was working for her, he thought bitterly, remembering all those extra freelance projects he took on to afford her gift. The cruel irony of it all made his chest ache. In trying to make her dream come true, he'd unwittingly given her the time and space to destroy their marriage. When morning eventually came, Oliver felt emptier than ever. Christmas Day sunlight crept through the window. It was supposed to be a day of joy and celebration, but Oliver felt only grief. He turned his phone back on. He had silenced it overnight. Instantly, dozens of new notifications popped up. A flood of texts from Claire, a few from other friends wishing Merry Christmas, blissfully unaware of the storm that had hit, and surprisingly, a couple from Adam. Oliver's jaw clenched seeing Adam's name. He opened those first, needing to know what his so-called friend could possibly have to say. Adam's messages were a mess of apologies and guilt. The first, sent around midnight, read, "I'm so sorry, Ollie. I know I'm the last person you want to hear from. I hate myself for hurting you. Please know it just happened because we were both in a bad place. It's not Claire's fault alone. I take full responsibility." The next one, "I don't expect you to forgive me. I hope you'll be okay. You've been my best friend since forever. I betrayed that. I am so sorry." Oliver felt nothing but a dull anger at Adam's attempts to explain. Bad place? What kind of excuse was that? He didn't respond. Instead, he looked at the texts from Claire, even though it hurt to see her name. There were many sent at intervals through the night. "I wish you'd answer. I'm so scared of losing you. Please, can we just talk? I'll do anything to fix this." Another, "I know I don't have the right to ask, but please come home. We can go to counseling, whatever it takes. I love you so much. I hate myself right now." And later, "I'm not going to stop fighting for us, even if you hate me. You're my everything, Oliver, please." The last one was just a single line from early morning. "Merry Christmas, Oliver. I'm so sorry I ruined it. I love you." Oliver couldn't suppress a bitter laugh that turned into a sob. Merry Christmas. What a Christmas. He tossed the phone aside, unable to read more. Her words tugged at him, but he also felt anger flare up with each apology. She says she loves me, but she did the one thing that could destroy me. How can she claim to love me? But a quieter voice in his mind whispered, maybe she truly does and just made a horrible mistake. Oliver buried his face in his pillow, groaning. He didn't know what to feel, what to think. Part of him still loved her, of course he did. You can't turn that off overnight. Another part of him despised what she had done and doubted if he could ever trust her again. Later that Christmas Day, James and Maria convinced Oliver to eat a little food and urged him gently to consider his next steps. "Do you want to try to work it out with her?" Maria asked softly. Oliver's immediate reaction was an emphatic shake of the head. "I don't know how I could ever trust her after this," he said, voice hoarse. "How could I ever look at her and not see that?" He broke off, pain flashing in his eyes. James put a hand on his shoulder. "Then you might need to speak to a lawyer, bro. It's not what you want to think about on Christmas, but I know," Oliver sighed. Divorce, the word hung heavy. The idea of ending their marriage made him want to weep all over again. This was the woman he envisioned growing old with, the woman with whom he thought he'd have children, travel the world, share every Christmas until their hair turned gray. Now that future had been snatched away. Still, if he couldn't trust her, what marriage was there left? It took Oliver 2 more days of soul searching and many more tears to come to a decision. Claire kept trying to reach him. She called repeatedly, left voicemails of herself sobbing and apologizing, begging him to come home or at least let her see him. On the 3rd day after Christmas, he finally agreed to meet her not at the house, but in a neutral place, a small park nearby that they used to go to in happier times. He felt he owed it to their years together to at least hear her out and say what needed saying. He spotted Claire sitting on a bench by the frozen pond, bundled in her navy peacoat, a red scarf at her neck. It was late afternoon, and weak sunlight glinted off the ice. As Oliver approached, his heart pounded. He had not seen her since that awful moment on Christmas Eve. Claire stood up when she saw him, hovering uncertainly by the bench. She looked pale and exhausted, as if she hadn't slept in days. Her eyes were red, rimmed, and she clasped her hands nervously in front of her. Oliver stopped a few feet away, shoving his hands into his jacket pockets mostly to hide their trembling. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The silence between them was filled with 1,000 things they needed to say, but neither knew where to start. "Thank you for meeting me," Claire said at last, her voice timid. Oliver only nodded, staring at the ground. He steeled himself. "I'm just going to say this, Claire. I can't keep going in circles in my head. I need to know why." His voice strained on that last word as he lifted his gaze to hers. Pain and confusion were etched on his face. "What did I do wrong? What made you do this?" Claire's eyes brimmed with tears instantly. "You didn't do anything wrong," she whispered. "This is all my fault, all of it." She took a shaky breath. "You have to know, Oliver, I never set out to cheat on you. I never, ever wanted to hurt you." Oliver felt a flare of anger. "But you did," he replied, voice tight. "You hurt me more than I ever thought possible. So why, Claire, was it excitement? Were you bored with me? Did our marriage mean so little that you'd throw it away for some fling with my best friend?" Bitterness crept into his tone. Claire flinched, tears spilling down her cheeks. She didn't try to wipe them, letting them freeze on her reddening skin in the cold air. "I wasn't bored with you. I love you. I know it's hard to believe that now, but I do," she said desperately. "The past few months, you were so busy. You were working late almost every night, working weekends too. We hardly spent time together. I tried to be understanding because I thought you were doing it for us, for our future, and I know you were. But I felt lonely, Oliver. I started doubting myself, doubting us. Instead of telling you that I was struggling, I kept it in." She covered her face briefly, her breath hitching. "That's not an excuse. It's just how it started. I would get anxious and sad being alone so much, especially as the holidays came closer. Adam noticed something was off with me one day when he stopped by to return a book you lent him. You were still at work. He saw I'd been crying." She swallowed hard. "He was kind to me, listened to me. I told him I was just stressed, maybe a bit depressed. He started checking in on me more often, texting me to ask how I was feeling. We met up for coffee a few times to talk. I should have seen the boundary was being crossed, but I told myself it was harmless because he's your best friend and our friend." Oliver closed his eyes as fresh pain washed over him. The betrayal ran deeper, hearing how it had developed. Claire continued, voice full of guilt. "I never planned for anything physical to happen. But one afternoon about 2 months ago, he came over to help me set up the new TV. Do you remember that? You were busy that weekend, and he offered to help." Oliver did remember. At the time he was grateful. Adam stepped in. Now he wished he could erase that day. Claire's shoulders shook. "After setting up the TV, we opened a bottle of wine. We talked. I was venting about how I felt distant from you. And Adam, he admitted he'd always found me attractive and cared about me. I was feeling vulnerable and flattered, and I am so ashamed to say that I let him kiss me that day." A sob escaped her lips. "I pulled away and told him it was wrong, and he left, apologizing. I hated myself for it. I swore it would never happen again." She looked up at Oliver with pleading eyes. "I thought about telling you so many times, but I was terrified of hurting you, of losing you, and also I was angry. A small part of me resented that you hadn't noticed how lonely I was." Oliver's face was stoic, but tears were silently trailing down his cheeks as he listened. Claire went on, voice barely audible. "Adam and I stopped talking for a few weeks after that. Then I don't know. It started up again. A friendly text, an apology from him. I should have cut it off completely, but I didn't. And then a few weeks later, we crossed that line. Afterward, we swore it was a horrible mistake, said it would never, ever happen again, but it did. We fell into this awful secret affair. It was never about me not loving you. I know how twisted that sounds, but I never stopped loving you. I was broken, and I let him comfort me in all the wrong ways. It was selfish and disgusting, and I have no excuse." By now Claire was sobbing openly, and Oliver was staring at her with anguish. A part of him did appreciate hearing the truth, as ugly as it was, but it didn't lessen the pain. If anything, picturing her and Adam sneaking around for months made him feel sick. Oliver spoke, voice trembling. "If you were feeling lonely or upset with me, why didn't you just talk to me, Claire? Why didn't you say something? I had no idea. I thought I was working hard for us. For our future, I would have done anything to make you feel better if I had known. I know," she wept. "That's what kills me. You were doing it for us. You were being wonderful, and I was too in my own head to communicate. Instead of reaching out to you, I betrayed you. It's all on me. I should have gone to you, or at least a therapist, not him." She wiped her nose with a tissue shakily. "Nothing I say can undo what I did. I just need you to know that I regret it with everything in me. Seeing you that day, seeing your face when you realized it was the worst moment of my life. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I hope you know how truly sorry I am, and that I do love you, even though I have a horrible way of showing it." Oliver looked up at the sky, blinking back tears. A cold breeze ruffled his brown hair. He felt so tired. "Sorry," he murmured almost to himself. "I've heard that word so many times now. It doesn't fix anything, Claire. I wish it could." He met her gaze again, and she saw the deep hurt in his eyes. "I believe you're sorry. I believe you even think you love me. But what you did is not something I can just forgive and forget. I don't know if I can ever trust you again, no matter how sorry you are." His voice cracked, and he inhaled sharply to steady it. "You broke us, Claire." Claire's face crumpled, and she covered her mouth as a sob escaped. "Please, Oliver, is it really over? I'll do anything. I'll go to counseling. I'll prove myself to you every day for the rest of our lives. Can't we try to fix this? Our marriage means everything to me." She stepped closer, as if she wanted to hug him, but stopped herself. Oliver's instinct was to reach out and comfort her. That's what he would have done if she were crying and nothing was wrong. But now he held back. He wrapped his arms around his own body, warding off the urge. "It meant everything to me too," he said quietly. He felt tears rolling down again, warm against his chilled skin. "But I'm not sure there's anything left to save. When I walked into that room, something died inside me. I can't eat. I can't sleep. I can barely breathe without feeling that pain again." His voice shuddered with emotion. "I love you, Claire. God help me, I still do. But you shattered my heart, and I don't think I can put it back together with you." Claire shook her head, sobbing. "Don't say that, please. I can change. He held up a hand gently. "Stop." There was a long silence, punctuated only by Claire's soft cries and the distant caw of a crow in the barren trees around the pond. Finally, Oliver spoke, each word weighted with sorrow. "I think we should separate. At least for now. I need time. And honestly, I think we both need to step back and really think about what we want. You need to figure out why you did what you did, and if you can live with yourself. I need to figure out if I can ever trust you or even look at you without this pain." Claire covered her face and cried into her palms. Oliver felt a lump in his throat that nearly suffocated him, but he pressed on. "I'll reach out to a divorce attorney. We don't have to go through with anything immediately, but I can't be married to you like this, not right now." Saying those words broke something in him. He never imagined he would be talking about divorce with the woman he adored, yet here he was. Claire lowered her hands, face blotchy and eyes swollen. "If that's what you need," she whispered, "I'll accept it. I won't fight you, Oliver. I know I did this." She wiped her cheeks. "But I'm not giving up hope that maybe one day you might forgive me, even if you can't now. I'll wait as long as it takes." Oliver didn't respond to that. He just felt tired and profoundly sad. After another painfully awkward pause, he said, "Take care of yourself, Claire." It was perhaps the most distant thing he'd ever said to her, and it made her flinch. He turned and walked away before he lost his resolve. Behind him, Claire sank back down onto the bench, face in her hands, her quiet sobs echoing in the still air. Oliver's chest ached at the sound, but he kept moving, one heavy step at a time, through the snow, dusted path and back to his car. In the following days, Oliver moved forward with the practical steps in a daze. He officially moved out of the house and into a short-term rental apartment downtown, since he couldn't bear living under the same roof with Claire, or even alone in that house filled with memories. Claire stayed at the house for the time being. She offered to move out instead, but Oliver insisted he'd go honestly. He just wanted to not be there anymore, where everything reminded him of her. He contacted a divorce lawyer recommended by a colleague. True to her word, Claire didn't contest anything. In fact, when his lawyer reached out, her only request was to speak with Oliver one more time before they finalized anything, but she didn't demand it. It was left up to him. They had a fairly straightforward settlement. They split their savings accounts down the middle. And since the house had been Oliver's before marriage, he had inherited it from an aunt. Claire didn't fight his keeping it. She only took her personal belongings and some of the furniture she'd bought herself, moving out to live temporarily with a close friend of hers. Oliver let her keep the car they shared. It was technically jointly owned. He had his own work car anyway. She didn't ask for alimony. They earned roughly the same, as she was a marketing consultant and could support herself. The legal part, which Oliver had dreaded, turned out to be the easiest part. It was all just paperwork formalizing the heartbreak that had already occurred. Before the divorce was finalized, about a month into their separation, Oliver agreed to see Claire one last time at her request. She came by his new apartment to drop off a few boxes of his things that had been at the old house. She looked fragile and nervous when he let her in. The atmosphere was polite, painfully so, as they exchanged the items and discussed a couple of remaining financial formalities. As she was leaving, Claire paused at the door and handed him a sealed envelope. Her hands were shaking as she extended it. "This, I wrote you a letter," she said quietly. "You don't have to read it, but I wanted to say some things and it was easier on paper." Oliver hesitated, then took the envelope. She gave him a last long look, her eyes full of sorrow and longing, and then she turned and walked away, whispering, "Goodbye, Oliver," as she left. Oliver sat down on his sofa, feeling emotionally drained, and opened the letter with a mix of curiosity and dread. In neat cursive handwriting, Claire always had beautiful handwriting. The letter ran several pages. Oliver began to read. "Dear Oliver, I'm writing this because I might never get the chance to tell you these things face to face. I want to start by saying that being your wife has been the greatest honor of my life. Even though I failed you in the end, the years we spent together were filled with more genuine love and happiness than I ever thought I'd have. I wake up every day now without you, and I feel lost, like I'm missing a part of myself, and I have no one to blame but me. When you walked into our bedroom on Christmas Eve, you gave me the biggest wake-up call imaginable. In that single moment, I saw myself through your eyes, and I've never been more disgusted with the person I saw. I wish I could take away your pain. If I could trade places with you and bear it all myself, I would. You asked me that day if I ever really loved you. I didn't answer properly because I was a coward, so let me say it now. Yes, I loved you with all my heart. I still do. That's what makes what I did so unforgivable. I've spent weeks now with that guilt and regret eating me alive, and I know I deserve it. I've started seeing a therapist. I'm trying to understand how I could have become someone capable of hurting the man I love most. It's a long road, but I'm committed to fixing myself, not to win you back. I know I may never get that chance, but so that I never hurt anyone like this again, and so I can be worthy of any kind of forgiveness someday. You might also be interested to know, I found out Adam tried to contact you. He told me he apologized. I also made it clear to him that I want nothing to do with him anymore. I cut off all contact. What we had was based on lies and weakness, and it cost me the best thing in my life. After you left, he actually thought we could continue or be together openly. I told him to go to hell. I couldn't even look at him without feeling sick for what we did to you. He left town to stay with his parents, and I don't care if I ever see him again. In case you were wondering, there's no happy ending for me and him, and I'm glad for that. I'm glad because I don't want a happy ending after what I've done. I mean, I don't think I deserve one, But I do hope that you find one. If there is any man in this world who deserves a happily ever after, it's you. Maybe that's with some wonderful woman who will appreciate you in all the ways I should have. Maybe it's just with a peaceful life, great friends, and the career success you've worked so hard for. Maybe it's both. I hope you get all of it. I won't keep rambling. I just needed you to know these things. Thank you for loving me, Oliver. You were an amazing husband. Losing you is the biggest loss I will ever experience, and it's entirely my own fault. I will regret it forever. I'm sorry that I couldn't be the wife you deserved. I'm sorry for all the pain I caused. If I could go back in time, I would change everything. I will love you always, and I will miss you always. Claire. Oliver set the letter down, his hands trembling. Tears blurred his vision as he finished reading. The letter was like a knife to the heart, but also, strangely, a balm. It didn't excuse what Claire had done, but it laid bare her soul, and Oliver could see that she truly understood the gravity of her actions and deeply regretted them. For the first time since discovering the affair, he felt a tiny bit of the weight on his chest lift. Claire's letter allowed him to see her not just as the woman who hurt him, but as a flawed human being who made a terrible mistake and was genuinely trying to atone for it. It didn't fix things, nothing could magically fix things, but Oliver felt something unexpected: compassion. He actually hurt for her too, imagining her alone with her guilt. That night, Oliver wrote a short reply. He didn't trust himself to call, and he thought if he tried to say these things out loud, he might break down. So he wrote a few sincere lines. Dear Claire, thank you for your letter. I can see how much pain you're in, and I want you to know that I don't hate you. I'm deeply hurt, and I can't be with you. But I understand that you are only human, and humans make mistakes, sometimes awful ones. I will be okay eventually. I hope you will be too. I forgive you, not for your sake, but for mine. I need to let go of the anger and hurt so that I can move on. Forgiving you is the only way I can do that. It doesn't mean I'll forget or that we can go back to how we were, but it means I won't carry bitterness or a grudge. I truly wish you the best, Claire, wherever life takes you. Thank you for the good times we shared. I will try to remember those more than the bad. Goodbye, Oliver. It wasn't a grand letter, but it was what he genuinely felt after reading her words. The next morning, he mailed it to the address of her friend's place where she was staying. 2 weeks later, their divorce was finalized quietly in court. Neither of them attended the brief hearing. Their lawyers handled the details. And just like that, 5 years of marriage came to an end. The first few months post-divorce were tough for Oliver. The new year came and went, and he threw himself into work to fill the void. He ended up putting in a lot of overtime simply because he had nowhere else to be and nothing else on his mind except his pain. Ironically, this dedication earned him a promotion by early spring. His boss, unaware of Oliver's personal turmoil, praised his recent work ethic and put him in charge of a major new project, along with a raise in salary. Oliver accepted the promotion with a half smile. It was a bittersweet moment. He wished he had someone to celebrate with. James and Maria did take him out for dinner that night, toasting to his success and to new beginnings. Oliver appreciated it and felt grateful for family, but he couldn't help noticing the empty seat that would have been occupied by Claire, beaming with pride at him. That was the thing about heartbreak. Even as you move on, little moments constantly remind you of what you've lost. Still, as winter melted into spring, Oliver found that he was slowly but surely healing. The pain was less sharp than before. He kept busy on weekdays with work and on weekends with anything he could, volunteering at a local coding camp for kids, hitting the gym more. He'd lost a bit of weight from stress, but now he focused on getting strong and healthy again. He even started going to a weekly hiking group to get outside and clear his head. These activities not only distracted him, they also introduced him to new people. He made a few new friends through the hiking group, people who only knew him as Oliver, not Oliver who was cheated on, which was a relief. He could talk and laugh and not have to think about the past for a while. Claire honored his request for space. Aside from a brief thank you note she mailed after receiving his letter, which simply said how his forgiveness meant the world and she wouldn't bother him again, she didn't initiate contact. Oliver occasionally checked her social media out of a mix of lingering concern and curiosity. She wasn't very active, but he saw that she continued teaching yoga classes and had even posted about starting a new chapter. By moving to a small apartment in the city and focusing on her well-being, it seemed she was trying to rebuild herself too. She looked a little thinner in her photos, a little sadder perhaps, but she was alive and moving forward, however slowly. Oliver hoped she was finding peace, even if he still felt pangs of sadness when he thought of her. And what of Adam, Oliver's former friend? Oliver had no direct contact with him since that one apologetic text string. Word got around in their mutual circles about what had happened. Most mutual friends cut ties with Adam out of loyalty to Oliver, especially since Adam essentially vanished after New Year's. He quit his job and moved back to his hometown in another state, at least for the time being. Oliver heard through the grapevine that Adam was distraught over what happened and felt too ashamed to face anyone. Oliver found that he didn't even care to think about Adam much. The anger toward his ex-friend had cooled to indifference. Perhaps, Oliver mused, that was another form of forgiveness when someone's existence no longer stirs anger or pain in you, just a void. In late June, about 6 months after that disastrous Christmas, life presented Oliver with something he never expected: a second chance at happiness. It started when one of his hiking buddies, a cheerful guy named Kevin, invited him to a summer barbecue at his home. Oliver almost declined. He still had moments where social gatherings felt daunting, as he wasn't sure if he could handle seeing happy couples or being asked personal questions. But Kevin insisted, saying, "Come on, it'll be fun, and hey, my cousin is visiting, she's single, and I think you two would click. No pressure, just as friends." Kevin's wink told Oliver that of course he was hoping for more than friends. Oliver had merely smiled and rolled his eyes. He wasn't sure he was ready to date, but maybe it was time to at least meet new people. That Saturday, Oliver showed up at the barbecue in Kevin's backyard, carrying a bowl of home-made pasta salad he'd whipped up. He was introduced to a number of Kevin's family members, including said cousin, a pretty woman named Hannah, with a warm smile and an easy laugh. To Oliver's surprise, he didn't feel that usual stab of guilt or reluctance when he found himself chatting with her for a long stretch of the afternoon. In the past months, anytime he remotely found a woman attractive or enjoyable to talk to, a voice in his head would whisper, "Is it too soon? Is this betraying what you had?" But this time, that voice was quiet. Talking with Hannah felt comfortable, like they'd known each other for ages. They discovered they had a lot in common. Both loved hiking and travel, both were a bit nerdy about classic films, and both had been through some tough times in relationships. Hannah mentioned she'd broken off an engagement a year prior due to incompatibility. There was an instant camaraderie and gentle chemistry. As the sun set and the party wrapped up, Hannah shyly asked if Oliver might want to grab coffee sometime before she went back home. She lived one town over, so not far. Oliver found himself genuinely smiling, a real, warm smile that he hadn't felt in a long time, and said yes, he'd like that very much. Kevin, observing from the grill, gave Oliver an exaggerated thumbs up when Hannah wasn't looking, making Oliver chuckle. It felt good to laugh like that. Oliver and Hannah met for coffee the next week, and then for a movie, and then for dinner. By the end of July, they were seeing each other regularly, taking things slow, but enjoying every moment. Oliver was upfront about his recent divorce and the hurt he'd been through. Hannah listened supportively and appreciated his honesty. She was understanding and patient, allowing him to set the pace. With her, Oliver felt something he hadn't felt in a long time: hope and excitement for the future. It was still early, but as he held Hannah's hand during a walk by the riverside one warm evening, he felt that perhaps love was possible for him again after all. One weekend, Oliver decided to check something off his personal bucket list. He took a short trip out of town to clear his head. It was something he had thought about doing right after the divorce, but never got around to. he went to a tranquil mountain resort for a few days of solo hiking and reflection. On the last morning there, he woke up early to catch the sunrise from a lookout point. As he watched the sun peek over the misty hills, painting the sky in hues of gold and pink, he felt a profound sense of peace wash over him. He realized he wasn't thinking about the pain or the betrayal in that moment. He was simply present, looking forward to what the day might bring. And he thought of a quote he once read, "Every sunset is an ending, every sunrise is a new beginning." It struck a chord deep within. The dark chapter of his life had set, and a new one was dawning. By Christmas of that next year, things were very different for Oliver. He had sold the old house. It was just too full of ghosts of the past for him to ever feel comfortable there again. In its place, he bought a lovely townhome on the other side of the city. It was smaller, easier to maintain, and felt like a fresh start. Hannah was now an important part of his life. They were taking it day by day, but she had become his close companion, and they shared the holidays with both their families in a joyful, low-key way. On Christmas Eve, exactly 1 year after his world fell apart, Oliver found himself at midnight holding Hannah in his arms by the fire in his new living room. She didn't know the full significance of that date to him. He had told her a bit, but not all the details yet. She seemed to sense it was emotional. She gently kissed him and said, "I'm so grateful we met. You deserve all the happiness in the world." Tears pricked Oliver's eyes, but this time they were tears of gratitude. "So do you, Hannah," he whispered, and as snow gently tapped against the window panes, Oliver realized that his heart, though scarred, was still capable of love and was, in fact, full of it. What about Claire? Oliver heard through James, who occasionally ran into her via mutual acquaintances, that she was doing all right. She had continued therapy, and eventually she even started a support group for women who had made serious mistakes in their relationships and wanted to rebuild their lives. It sounded like she was trying to turn her guilt into something positive by helping others not go down the same path. Claire never reached out to Oliver again, and he respected that distance. However, on New Year's Day, Oliver did receive a card in the mail with no return address, but he knew the handwriting on the envelope. Inside was a simple note, "I'm glad you're doing well. I just wanted to wish you happiness in the new year. You deserve it. C." Oliver showed the card to Hannah, who knew who C was. Hannah squeezed his hand and asked how he felt. Oliver thought about it and realized he felt fine. The past truly felt like the past now. He appreciated that Claire wished him well, and he genuinely wished the same for her. In the end, Oliver learned some profound lessons from this painful journey. He learned that even the strongest relationship can fall apart if both people aren't communicating and caring for it every single day. He learned that betrayal says more about the betrayer's weaknesses than about the worth of the one betrayed. Perhaps most importantly, he learned that forgiveness is a powerful tool not to absolve someone of blame, but to free oneself from the prison of anger and bitterness. Forgiving Claire allowed him to heal and open his heart again, and he discovered that sometimes the worst thing to ever happen to you can, in time, lead to something good. If Claire hadn't broken his heart, he never would have discovered his own resilience or found this new path that led him to personal growth, a great opportunity in his career, and eventually to Hannah. In an odd way, the cruel Christmas surprise had freed him from living a lie and given both him and Claire a chance to start anew on more honest terms. It's a strange gift, but a gift nonetheless. As Oliver looked forward to the future, whether it held marriage with Hannah, a family, or any number of unknown adventures, he knew he would carry the lessons of that fateful Christmas in his heart. He would love wholeheartedly, but also remember to communicate, to never take a partner's feelings for granted, and to never lose himself in trying to please someone without understanding their true needs. He also knew he could handle whatever life threw at him because he had walked through fire and come out the other side, stronger and wiser. Sometimes the most heartbreaking betrayals can teach us what love really means. Oliver found out the hard way that love isn't just grand surprises and fairy tale moments. It's trust, honesty, and daily devotion. When those things break, the love can break with it. But when you heal and learn, you can rebuild love on stronger foundations. Oliver's Christmas surprise had broken him, but in picking up the pieces, he built a new life that was more authentic and fulfilling than the illusion he'd been living. And so, 1 year later, Oliver Grant stood by a Christmas tree with a genuine smile on his face and hope in his heart. He had survived the worst and was thriving. He silently thanked fate for guiding him through the darkness to this point. As he hung a beautiful emerald green ornament on the tree, he'd bought it to symbolize that necklace he never gave, turning a painful memory into a positive symbol. He reflected on the journey. He thought people will reveal who they truly are when faced with temptation and hardship. Claire had revealed her frailty and poor choices, but also her capacity for remorse and change. Adam had revealed his lack of loyalty and then his shame. Oliver had revealed to himself his own strength and capacity to forgive. In the end, Oliver realized that the greatest gift he got that Christmas was the truth, as awful as it was, because it set into motion a chain of events that ultimately led him to a better place. Sometimes, the gifts we think we want, like that dream necklace for Claire, aren't the ones we end up getting to give. Instead, life gives us the gift of wisdom through pain, the gift of resilience through trials, and the gift of new beginnings through endings. Oliver unwrapped those gifts slowly, over months, with a lot of tears, but now he cherished what he'd learned and what he had. He put his arm around Hannah as they gazed at the twinkling tree lights. She leaned her head on his shoulder and sighed contentedly. Oliver realized he was content too. More than content, he was happy. Despite everything, he had found happiness again. And that was a Christmas miracle he hadn't anticipated. If you enjoyed this emotional story of betrayal, healing, and hope, please give this video a thumbs up and let us know in the comments what you would have done in Oliver's situation. Would you have handled things differently or made the same choices he did? We're curious to hear your perspective. And if you're not already subscribed to our channel, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss a new story. We share brand new, heartfelt stories every day, each one filled with intense twists and life lessons. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.